ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. So we're continuing our discussion with the book Bulugu Maraam and discussing in specific the kitab, the bab of Tahara and the bab of Al Wudu. And last week we were covering concerning some matters pertaining to Ahkam of Wudu, and we had ended. We discussed concerning that other matter we had covered last week regarding concerning that a person exceeding the area that is wajib regarding the wudu, and we discussed that matter and the hadith that Rahimahullah Ibn Hajar mentioned, that also the ahkam, the ruling that can be taken from it. Also we had covered regarding of those things regarding the wudu is regarding trying to it is starting with the right side then with the left side. So with that started discuss the first hadith of Aisha anha regarding that matter concerning the Prophet Islam that he used to prefer to start concerning or prefer to put his shoes, put on his clothing and his tahara regarding starting with the right side of the body first. So we discussed that particular hadith and what it included a hadith, even though the hadith with sound general, but in certain cases still restrictive, where certain things, one is preferred to start with the left side, not to be done with the right. So everything according to its context regarding what should be done with the right and what should be done with the left. And as we mentioned, Imam Umar Rahimahullah, he mentioned regarding things which is things of tahrim or things of tashrif, things that are considered to be noble and things that are considered to be pleasant, then it's preferable to start those things with the right. And things which is opposite this, which is more seen to be unpleasant, then to start those things with using the left hand. So then we discuss the next hadith, that is mentioned, and then we continue what remained from this hadith pertaining to the ahkam of al-wudu. Aywa, which hadith to reach?
41. Abu Hurairah.
Aywa, what's that hadith?
Narrated Abu Hurairah radiyallahu ta'ala. Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, when you perform ablution, begin with your right limbs. Reported by Al-Arba'a and graded Sahih by Ibn Khuzaymah.
So that's the second hadith regarding the matter regarding the use of the right, regarding even matters concerning al-tahara. So he mentioned regarding إِذَا تَوَضَعْتُمْ or the hadith concerning إِذَا تَوَضَعْتُمْ فَابْدَهُ بِ. So if you start in wudu, then you should start with your right. He mentioned the hadith in the al-arba, and we said al-arba, man hum al-arba? Who's the arba that he mentioned here? Or al-arba, he says the hadith is collected by al-arba. Or al-arba? Start again from the top. Abu Dawood, Tirmidhi, Nasa'i, Ibn Majah. So those are al-arba. As you mentioned, Ibn Hajar Rahimahullah, in the beginning of the book, he kind of somewhat outlined this, that I mentioned Wasahahu Ibn Khuzaymah. So Ibn Khuzaymah Rahimahullah, that he has a book in hadith. One of the things that as Ibn Khuzaymah book, that it is somewhat, it stands out for. So Ibn Khuzaymah as a collection of hadith, but what it stands out for, what is renowned for?
It's authenticity.
It's authenticity. So he made as a condition that all the hadith in his book is authentic, even though he didn't per se fulfill the condition, but that was the goal. Even though he didn't per se fulfill the condition, but that was the goal that he set out. So the hadith he mentioned, the arba, even though the hadith also is in the Bukhari Muslim. So he mentioned Akhraju al-arba, but also no, the hadith of Aisha, as for the hadith in the Abu Dawood with Tirmidhi, Nasa'i, Ibn Majah, and Ibn Khuzaymah, Ibn Hibban, Ahmed. So the hadith is many who have narrated this particular hadith. And the hadith isnaduhu yani sahih. So the hadith generally, the hadith is authentic as mentioned here. So as for concerning what can be taken from this particular hadith, you can somewhat general is to mention regarding, and they mention regarding this particular hadith that it was mentioned more regarding this hadith, regarding this is a portion of a hadith, this is the part of a hadith, a more detailed hadith, and this was more regarding matters concerning al-hajj. So this hadith is more concerning matters concerning al-hajj, the rites of hajj, but also it is, as they mentioned, that more so the hadith is used in general. The hadith is used in general, not per se it is used specific for a reason that it was mentioned. But the ruling is much more broader and applies to various other things. So the general hadith, as in the first hadith regarding concerning starting with the right, starting with the right, even concerning matters concerning at-tahara. So this hadith also is to re-emphasize this. So the matter regarding concerning is preferable to start with the right concerning matters concerning putting on one's clothing, to start with the right. So the top, whether it be the shirt or the qamis or the blouse, also one pants, skirt or whatever. So putting the right foot first regarding that. Also one shoe or even one socks. That to start with the right first. Also of those things that right foot first is preferred is the whole Masjid, entering the Masjid. Also we discussed before concerning some mention, as Umar mentioned, regarding the use of the miswak. To start with that, but start with the right first, and even with using the right hand. Now, even there's a matter of discussion between the ulama, but some regarding the use of the miswak, to start with the use of the right, and even start with the right side of the mouth first, and also cutting off the nails. Now, so one wish to cut one nails with a finger or toenails. Now, that one starts with the right side first, and then go to the left. In cutting the nails, we say right first, then left. But which finger you start with? Is there anything specific that you have to start with a particular finger, or it is general?
No, there's a hadith, isn't there?
From the right, from this.
I think
so start with the right hand.
I think it's your pinky.
The pinky first.
I would thumb, I'm not sure, but there is a hadith that says which ones to go through.
Okay. So
is it the same rule like when you're making wudu? You start with the little.
The wudu?
Is it the same? Huh?
No,
so the cutting of the nails, cutting of the nail, the finger or the toenails. We said that's the right hand. We said we start with the right hand, but which finger regarding cutting first we start with? Is there anything about a specific finger to start with, or one just as one chooses?
No,
the furthest from to the right.
Furthest from the
furthest to the right side.
You start with the forefinger, then the middle finger, then the ring finger, then the pinky finger, then
repeat
the thumb.
Again. So you went to go? Yes.
The forefinger.
So the forefinger, which one?
Is this one.
So the one with the tashahhud.
Then the middle finger.
Then the middle finger, one beside it.
Then the ring finger.
Then the ring finger.
Then the pinky, and then the thumb.
And the thumb.
Yeah, that's in Sahih Muslim.
That's inside Muslim.
And then do the return on your.
You sure that's inside Muslim?
Yeah, look.
You got that quick, bro.
Not to my knowledge, they put this, but I don't know if hadith regarding that. There's no hadith that regarding that. Regarding which one to start with is concerning that, which one to start with and which one. That's the aqwal of the ulama, not per se hadith that specifically give that detail.
Yeah.
Now, we find the ulama about that discussion regarding where to start, which finger to start with. So you have some that will mention that out of the that some prefer to start with the right because it says start with the right hand, the right side first. Then some may give precedent to this finger as the finger of the shahud. You understand? So the ultimate more of all the fingers more honorable and noble. So they say start with this finger first and then just go around in the order. Both said no, that's stuff that ijtihad of the ulama. Some say from this one then come around. Now, both said that's not ijtihad of the ulama, but there's no hadith that specifically mentioned as to which one to start with.
So this wasn't a...
It's not what a person mentioned. It's not per se hadith. You understand? The hadith may be mentioned regarding the right as in general, as you mentioned before, people regarding starting the right. You understand? But as for which finger, then, but I'll double check that maybe you understand, but to what I can recall, there's no specific hadith regarding which finger to start with. But that's concerning that matter, just a general thing. Then also regarding, so in general, and also concerning the person which like to comb one hair, or the person which to brush one's hair, to start the right side of the body, the right side first. Also person which now to cut one's hair, to start with the right first, isn't it? But what's the right first? In cutting one hair, the right of the barber or the right of the... So
I cut my own hair anyway. It's easier for me to start on the right anyway.
If you're cutting your own hair, then you need to start with the right first, isn't it? That's clear. But if someone is doing it for you, someone cutting your hair, which side do they start with first? With their right or with your right?
SubhanAllah. I've been involved in a long time.
Hey, with your right.
It's the right, isn't it?
So you cut with your right. So you cut from the person who's receiving, then because it's your ear being cut, isn't it? So your right is cut first. So the general thing concerning those matters. So it's a general concern. They mention also by way of note concerning there are certain things, and sometimes using the right side of the body may in certain cases be something which is, we say mustahab to be done, and in some cases wajib, that certain things are done with the right, and some things that is mustahab to be done with the right. But those matters come later. And also certain things are preferable that the person starts with his left. Now, concerning a person cleaning himself, so that person like washing oneself, if the person can, like you're washing yourself, most people are right-handed, we do it with our right hand, isn't it? That's the reality, that's what you might find. When washing ourselves, like taking a bath, to soap, which one we use normally, right or left?
Always normally just do right hand first, isn't it?
No, so that's it. Which of the hands you use to wash your body with? You understand? Not per se which side, but which of the hands you use in the act. The right or left? No, that's what I'm saying. Because most of us may be right-handed, as most people are.
I'm left-handed.
Will the person use the right hand or the left hand?
Right.
Yeah, your left foot, yeah.
Hey.
What's the right? Right.
Most right-handed said no, and that's because it's something of removing, of something we consider of taking off a bath, of najasa and impurities on oneself, then we would more give precedent to the left hand to be used. Because the person uses right, then you can't say the person outright wrong.
Yeah.
You understand? But preferable to use as a general rule. Because the person may be used to right-handed, you understand what I said? Then becomes just a norm to do it that way, because you feel you're more comfortable and more ease to do it in that manner. Just like a person who's left-handed in writing. Do you tell a person to write, to use it, to become right-handed? No, there's no need. There's not a person who's right-handed or left-handed in writing. You have to go somewhat, write with your right hand. There's no such thing. You understand? So, I said that everything is put in its right place and perspective. As you find someone, the Prophet Islam didn't go into detail, let's give a general principle, without going into certain detail in certain matters. Now, so also they mentioned, so that's concerning that general hadith is just somewhat to reinforce regarding concerning even in matters of tahara, that one starts with the right first of the body and then to the left. So that will complete that hadith, and then we'll go to the hadith of Al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah.
Narrated Al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah. The Prophet radiallahu anhu, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam performed ablution and passed wet hands on his forelock, over the turban and over the two leather socks, supported by Muslim.
And from this hadith, there's some mention from the hadith we just mentioned concerning إذا توضأتم. If you got some of the ulama can somewhat old concerning that. So said that majority of the ulama is of the view that it is mustahab to start with the right. So said it's not mustahab to start with the right. In general, that's the view of the jumhur of the ulama. So next hadith of Al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah ta'ala anhu, Nabi Islam ta'ala famasa. So this particular hadith now to discuss concerning this hadith of Mughira, of discussing concerning of those acts of wudu, regarding that after more detail of wudu that we had covered, but also discussing more in detail regarding concerning the hadith here is to cover concerning the matter regarding that wiping of the head. But in this scenario, in this case, the person who has something on his head, where like in this case concerning we are an imama. So the person who's wearing an imam upon his head, then how did the person go about wiping his head in this case? So we discussed before concerning if the person is not wearing anything on his head, then the person will wipe the entire head, that is wajib. Now, but in this scenario, if the person now has something on his head, then what is to be done? Is the person to remove it and wipe his head? Or is he allowed to keep that thing on his head, for that thing to remain upon his head, and then for him to wipe, allowed to wipe on it, and also a part of his head, meaning his hair. Now, so let's concern this particular hadith of Al-Mughira. As I mentioned, فَمَسَهَ بِنَاصِيَتِهِ وَعَلَى إِمَامَتِهِ وَخُفَيْهِ. So discuss concerning that for the head part of the first hadith, that he wiped on the, we said this part to be the forehead of, and then also the imama, which was that imam said the turban that he was wearing. So that's concerning, and also mentioned al-khuf, also that he wiped on his al-khuf. So as for this particular hadith, that that from this the ulama are taking a view concerning that it is permissible, it shows the permissibility, that it is no difficulty. That if there is difficulty concerning a person wearing something or a turban, it is allowed for a person to wipe on a portion of his head and also on his imama. So the act concerning Quran, concerning wiping on the hair, over the head, on the hair, it still remain where the person wipe a part of the head and also the remaining part will be on the imama, and that will be sufficient. Now, and then, so that's concerning this particular masala. So it shows regarding concerning that if the person wish, he can remove it and wipe the entire head if his head is, or if the person still choose to do so, then he can wipe on the imama, but also he has to wipe on part of his head. And that applies to things like imama. Though things like these things we call these things kufi and the like, whether in this way or in that format, these type that is easy can be removed, and the person remove it and he wipe over his entire head.
But is there a different kind of ruling in terms of like the turban, because you've got different styles in it? Like you've got some that you can just pull off easily, and you've got some that go around the chin. Is there like, for the one that goes around the chin, it's going to be difficult? Is that under the same thing as like the one that you tie around, or?
It's the one on the chin.
Is there not one that the Prophet ﷺ used to wear that was wrapped around underneath?
So the imama, you understand, is instances concerned that is wrapped on the head.
Yeah.
What's that for the style that the person may do, it is the next matter. But it's a bit on the chin or it is left, in the back. You understand? The main thing that it is something that is fixed on the head and a turban wrapped on the head, then that's an imama.
Okay.
So that's concerned. So ruling applies to any. If the person says no, if the person said it is jaiz, permissible, so the person wishes to remove it or find difficulty, then he has that allowance. If you find it difficult, then he just wipe over it.
Yeah.
Now, if it is something that is easily can be removed and he wishes to remove it and take it off and wipe it entire, then that's allowed also.
Yeah.
But the general thing is that in this case of wearing an imama, he has the allowance and the permissibility that he can wipe on it with the condition that he wipes also on a part of his head. So let's consider that particular hadith that mentioned this particular.
If he was to take it off later on, does the wudu stay intact?
Yeah, the wudu is still intact.
Okay.
So that's concerning that particular hadith.
You mentioned the two leather socks as well. Is
that will come later, a different discussion.
Okay.
Regarding concerning that matter. So it's a general thing that even these will come different as a separate topic. Those ones will come after in the bab of wudu concerning mas'ala khuffatin. So in the bab of wudu, in tahara or bab of wudu, they're using a separate discussion regarding mas'ala khuffain. Yes, so that will come again at the end of this chapter. They'll discuss this as its special rules and guidelines. So let's mention this because it's a part of the hadith. But the hadith again will be repeated again and discussed more. And also the hadith in general, it shows the permissibility regarding wiping over the khuf. Now, but also with other conditions to be mentioned later in its later on in the discussion regarding al-mas'ala khuffain. So that's concerning that particular hadith. Then we'll go to the next hadith.
Narrated Jabir bin Abdullah.
By this hadith, some of the ulama in general and other books that we discussed from this hadith also, some of the ulama are all concerned that, for example, a female who wears a khimar or hijab, that it shows also from this that a woman who's wearing her hijab, that from some of the sahabiyat, Hafsa from what I call that they wiped over their hijab without taking it off to wipe on their hair directly. Now, so you find some of the sahabiyat that they did this. Now, so in case, for example, she might find it difficult to take off her hijab. In a situation which you find it difficult to take off her hijab, then also she has this right. Now that she can wipe over her khimar without taking it off. And as some of the sahabiyat that they did of this.
Imam, do you want to drink? Sure.
Yeah, it's okay. So go to the next hadith.
Narrated Jabir bin Abdullah radiallahu ta'ala an regarding the description of the Hajj of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, begin with what Allah had begun with. Reported by An-Nasa'i in this way, in the command form, while Muslim has reported it in the informative form.
So correction, when I mentioned concerning the hadith, I will mention a couple of the hadith before regarding, we said for Hajj, no, this is the hadith that is for Hajj, but he mentioned also in this bab, so this hadith, so we mentioned about Hajj before, that's corrected, and regarding concerning starting right, this is the hadith that is related to Hajj. So this hadith of Jabir ibn Abdullah, that's the hadith that relates to Hajj, but also concerning the start, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to start doing everything in the sense of doing things in the order and the sequence that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala outlined regarding Hajj. Now, so they mentioned this hadith also regarding, the same applies regarding al-wudu, that a person stick to the order or the sequence regarding the limbs, to start with the face first in that order, then a person go to his hand, then wiping off the head, and then what, and then the feet. So that's concerning the order that a person did, and concerning that sticking to that order. They mentioned concerning at-tartib. So the hadith is discussed concerning tartib, regarding holding to the order, as mentioned in the Quran and also in the Sunnah, that a person should not go outside that order, in the sense of the face is done first, then the person wash the hands second, then the head is wiped third, and what comes with it, and also the feet is done fourth. So there's 4 limbs to be done in that order, and a person should not break that order. So that's concerning at-tartib. Concerning at-tartib fil wudu. So sticking to the tartib of wudu, it is something which is wajib, or the person is allowed to break that order, and the order of the wudu. So the person, for example, if I was to make wudu, wash my face, then I wipe my head, then did my hands, now and wear my feet. So I broke the order, isn't it? Because I washed my face, then I went to my head and my ears, then I went back to my hand. So I break the order or the sequence. Is this wudu still correct or not? Because the order is what? Face, hands, head and feet. So if you were to break that order, is your wudu correct or not? That's what is meant by tartib. Is it wajib or not? Wajib meaning you must stick to that order. If your order is wajib, then if you break the order, then your wudu may need to be redo or start from where you break the order. Hey. So regarding that matter I mentioned, so regarding this particular matter,
you know the earlier hadith you said, was that to do with Hajj as well?
No.
That wasn't to do with Hajj.
No, not to do with Hajj. This is the one that has to do with Hajj. This is the one that has to do with Hajj. So as we mentioned concerning the ulama regarding this particular hadith, he discussed concerning this matter regarding sticking to the order regarding al-wudu, So they mentioned concerning, as for the Prophet of Islam regarding performing of wudu, he will always stick to the order. As mentioned in the Quran, by way of the face, then hands, then head, then feet. So that's considered his normal practice that he, in most cases, that he held to, that he would normally followed. So that's concerning the view that is held by some of the ulama. So based upon this matter, there is some khilaf though. There is some khilaf between the ulama regarding this particular matter. So sticking to the sequence or to the order of wudu, of the ulama who hold as is wajib, wujub at-tartib for wudu. That a person must stick to the order of wudu, and that order is the person start with his face, then his hands, then wiping of the head and the ears, and then washing the feet. So they mentioned that this order is to be followed, and if the person was to break that order, come out of that order, then his wudu is not authentic and it's to be redone. His wudu is not valid if he was to break that order. So that's the first view of some of the ulama. And after that, of those who ascribe to that view, Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, Aqawl, and also Shafi, Abu Ubaid, so Ikhtar Abu Ubaid, one of the ulama of hadith, but al-fuqaha. So you have those ulama who hold the person must stick to the order, that order, face, then hands, then the head, then the feet. And if the person was to break that order, that sequence, then his wudu is invalid. And the adillah they use concerning Ayat al-Ma'idah that mentioned that order. Regarding Ayat al-Ma'idah, it mentioned that order. And also they mentioned concerning Prophet Islam regarding his wudu from what have come to us, he always stick to that order. From his wudu, description of his wudu, that always stick to this particular order. The second view on this matter is that I mentioned anna tartib, that following this tartib, this order regarding the wudu, as mentioned, it is ghayr wajib. It is not something that is wajib, bal mustahab. It is something which is preferred to be done. And إذا تقدم, if the person was to proceed certain limbs before the other, then your wudu is still tam, still valid. Your wudu is still intact. And so that's the second view. And that's the view that is taken by Imam Malik wa Ashab al-Rahi. Ashab al-Rahi in the sense of the Ahnaf. Ashab al-Rahi in the sense of Ahnaf. And also a narration Imam Ahmed. And mentioned that of those, Ibn Mundhir, of those who have taken that view, and Jamal and Salaf. So you find that a difference between ulama. Some that take the view that is wajib, that one must take to the order, and others will go, that's not the case. So those are the two views that are there. I'll mention the lead for the first view to some degree. Then also as for the second view of the adillah that they use, there's a hadith of Rubayy', the hadith of Rubayy' bint Mu'awwadh. So hadith of Mu'ayy bin Mu'awwadh regarding concern that hadith mentioned, the hadith of Prophet Islam regarding the description of wudu mentioned. فَغَسَّلَ, so work with me the hadith, listen. فَغَسَّلَ, it mentioned his description of the Prophet Islam wudu, for mention فَغَسَّلَ كَفَّيْهِ ثَلَاثًا, that he washed his hand is up to the wrist 3 times. وَوَضَّى وَجْهَهُ ثَلَاثًا, then also he made wudu upon his face 3 times. وَمَضْمَضَ وَإِسْتَنْشَقَ مَرَّةً, then he made مَضْمَضَ مَضْمَضَ once. Then he mentioned وَفِي لَفْ فَبَدَهَ فَغَسَّلَ يَدَيْهِ قَبْلَ أَنْ يَدْخُلْهُمَا, then he mentioned ثُمَّ يَتَوَضَّى فَغَسَّلَ وَجْهُهُ ثَلَاثًا, that he washed his face 3 times. ثُمَّ, so you have 2 narrations, that one. Another narration said ثُمَّ مَضْمَضَ ثَلَاثًا وَاسْتَنْشَقَ ثَلَاثًا. Then al-hadith, they mentioned concerning that his hands and the rest of the hadith. So in some of the narration it mentioned that he broke the sequence. The second narration mentioned his face, غَسَلَ وَجْهَهُ ثَلَاثًا, he washed his face 3 times. ثُمَّ مَضْمَضَ ثَلَاثًا, he washed his nose. وَيَسْتَنْشَقَ, and his mouth 3 times. Then he mentioned his hands. Then he mentioned the rest of the hadith. With me? So in that narration, some narration mentioned, and that narration is with Abu Dawood, Ad-Daraqutni. That narration with Abu Dawood, with Ad-Daraqutni, where in the hadith, he washed his face, madmada, wastanshaka, then his hands. Did the sequence broke?
Yeah, because he did his hands after.
He did his hands?
After.
After what?
After his
He did his
face, innit?
His face.
He did his hands after the madmada. He said, is that the one?
Did the madmada, then he did the face, then the hands.
Some narration, so it mentioned regarding some narration, فَبَدَهَا فَيَغْسِلْ يَدَيْهِ قَبْلَ أَنْ يَدْخُلْهُمَا ثَلَاثًا. That they mentioned that he washed his hand 3 times. Then they mentioned ثُمَّ, the narration from the start of the hadith, mentioned في لفظ فَيَغْسِلْ يَدَيْهِ قَبْلَ أَنْ يَدْخُلْهُمَا ثَلَاثًا. That he washed his hand 3 times. Now, before he placed them in the container. Then he washed his face. Then he made madmada wa istinshaka. So that's when I mentioned that he washed his hands. Washed his hands 3 times. Now, so this hadith is under some discussion, but from some who mentioned that the fact he washed his hands up to the elbow 3 times, he broke that sequence. Then he went back to everything else. Now, in some narration, that he washed his hands, then his face, then nose and mouth, then he went, so they mentioned he did his hands, full arm, 3 times before he did his face. So he broke that sequence. So they said that's the proof that what? He broke the sequence. So that hadith, though, is under some discussion. That hadith is under some discussion. And you find some of the ulama who have authenticated hadith regarding that, breaking that sequence of the hands, then the face to the rest of the body. That of those, Shaykh Albani can someone hold the hadith to be, or Shaykh Albani hold the hadith to be Hasan. Regarding the second narration, that he started with his hands first. Regarding washes his entire hand first, then the face and the rest of the body. Now, so based upon this hadith, it can somewhat indicate, or seems what it's indicate that what? The sequence was broken. So they use that there, and I mentioned concern that, also I said concern that the verse in the Quran, it mentioned that it doesn't show a sequence. So it doesn't mention a difference linguistically regarding using the word wow and using the word thumma, with a linguistic difference. Does the word in the ayah mention فَغْسِلُوا وَجُوهَكُمْ keep using the word wow with me? So wow is like and the word thumma is the word then. So they said wow doesn't necessarily mean that it is something which is in sequence, in order, but just mean that everything is gathered. And the word thumma more give an impression or give the meaning of something done in a certain order. For example, Zayd and Amr enter the house. Zayd and Amr, they enter the house. So that they can somehow enter together. Doesn't mean that one entered before the other, but it means that they entered together. But we said Zayd thumma Amr dakhal al-bayt, that Zayd and Amr, Zayd then Amr enter the house. They show that there was an order, a sequence, that one entered before the other. Now, so you have discussion linguistically, but of the evidence they use, they said is this hadith of Rubaiyah. Now, and some of the ulama hold the hadith to be authentic of them, Shaykh Albani rahimahullah. But they said the hadith generally, that there's a discussion regarding the hadith itself, that the hadith is weak due to one of the narrators, Muhammad ibn Abdullah ibn Aqil. There's some kalam about him now that indicate that he's weak regarding the hadith.
Where's the narration? Which book is it?
Abu Dawood wa Daraqutni. And Shaykh Albani, I think reading is Sahih Sunan Abi Dawood. Sunan Abi Dawood. So generally concerned that hadith, it shows concern that the tartib somewhat was broken, but that matter regarding that hadith also under some discussion. But that's concerning the evidence concerning both sides regarding sticking to the tartib and not sticking to the tartib. But Allahu A'lam, that the hadith on a discussion, but also doesn't per se straight that view, and the view regarding sticking to the tartib seems to be stronger. As a Prophet of Islam is known that he always stick to this routine, regarding this particular act of al-wudu. So that's concerning that discussion regarding at-tartib, regarding to the general discussion regarding at-tartib. They emphasize concern that this hadith, though, even though they all concern that this hadith regarding that, so some discussion also the tartib was out, also regarding al-madma wa istinshaq. So the tartib with this hadith that was broken was more so regarding madmada wa istinshaq. So the normal sense of the person make wudu, we wash the face first, or do madmada wa istinshaq first. Which we do first? First, and then wash the face after. So the tartib, what was changed in this one was concerning the face, not that was regarding that madmada and istinshaq was done first, and then the face was washed after. So as the person normally that would wash the in this hadith, the face was washed first, then madmada and istinshaq was done second. The normal routine would be the opposite. Istinshaq or madmada, washing up the nose and the mouth would be done first, then the face would be done after. So that was the secret that was broken in the hadith. But also they expect, even the hadith is authentic, that whether the face or was done first or madmada, still the facial area was done first before the hands and the rest of the body. So the sequence is not fully broken completely, where the face area was still done first, then the hands, then the head and the feet. You understand? So that's the hadith still doesn't fully prove the point of those who say regarding that if the person wants to do the hands, then the face, then that's a problem. There's no such hadith to prove those type of things. But concerning if the person wants to wash the face first, then do madmada istinshaq, is that act is still okay, because the facial area that is conceived as one limb was still washed. Then the person go to his hand, then to the head. If the person wants to do the hands, then go to the face, then madmada, then that is breaking the sequence. So the hadith per se, they said, doesn't really prove the point of those who say breaking the sequence of those main limbs didn't per se go out of order. So the general thing is concerned the hadith, that the general thing concerned that a person, it is wajib to stick with the order. Stick with the order, the face first, then the hands, then the head, and then the feet. So that's concerning that particular hadith.
When you say the hands, you mean from...
The hands, then the next hadith, anhu qal.
This 45, yeah? Narrated, Jabir bin Abdullah, radiallahu anhu, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam used to run the water down his elbows while performing ablution. Reported by Darakutni with a da'if, weak chain of narrators.
So now discuss concerning hadith again concerning that al-Mughira anhu كان بالنسبة إذا توضأ the Prophet إذا توضأ أدار that he have water passed over passed up to his mirfaq, up to his elbow. Now Muslims know they mentioned and then after Rahimullah mentioned that the hadith is da'if. So concerning clear the hadith is weak regarding this particular matter. Again, that so the hadith is weak. As mentioned.
So what does that mean? They run the water like that?
Adar is the water that is passed over this limb. because the person that do like that doesn't necessarily mean the water that is passed over up to the water that it goes up to the elbow. That's the main
You can
point.
do that, but you have to make sure it goes.
It doesn't necessarily mean this. It does not mean that. Yes, that doesn't necessarily mean that. The hadith emphasized that washing the hands, that it goes to the other person that doesn't exceed the elbow, and the elbow is included in the area to be washed. That's the main focus of the hadith. Not because the person does catch water in his hand and then, you understand, flip it back to it. Yeah, that's not the case. Yeah, that's not the case. The main emphasis is that the person ensure that water and that the elbow is included in the part to be washed.
Yeah, I've seen people do it.
You run your hand
Wiping it as well.
when you wash it, and do you wash it back with your hand like this?
So that whichever way the person wishes to move his hands, you understand, in those matters, there's nothing that I know that the person can. So the main thing I said, the hadith discussed that the person include his elbow, but as to how the person, then it goes back to you. Whether you want to wash it this way and zigzag, or you want to go straight, you understand? Then those things go back to the individual. You understand? You understand? So those things go back. The main point is that a person, and everything is washed. However you do it, if you have large hand and everything, one, big, one, then khalas.
It's like you see people do the feet, they just put it under there like that, not even do the ankles, just like.
Yeah, so I said, so the person said, no, before the person can ensure that if he goes to turn on the tap and the water is running, you put your hand on there and go this way and back and forth, everything is washed from what you see, then that's sufficient. You understand? The person uses his hand, said that's better to pass his hands over with the water. Then the main thing that the limbs are washed correctly. So it's a general hadith also is da'if. Now, but I said the general meaning of the hadith is correct. Whereas the elbow is included in the area to be washed. And that's the shahid from the hadith. The main point is that the elbow is included in the area to be washed. As we had discussed from before.
Is that the same narrator, Jabir?
It's Jabir. And concerning Jabir, and the hadith of Jabir, as he was the narrator before, not Mughira. Sorry. So that hadith mainly is discussed concerning that, as coincide the hadith with an ayah concerning waghsulu. I mentioned وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ إِلَى مَرَافِقٍ. So concerning the elbow is to be included in the washing of the hands. So what could be the reason that the hadith is not da'if? So that's concerning Ibn Ashur rahimahullah, indicating concerning the hadith is da'if, so the person is clear. Another matter regarding hadith da'if. We mentioned before concerning for hadith to be a hadith, to be authentic, it has to have certain conditions. Remember that. I mentioned 5 conditions. If any of those conditions are missed, then the hadith is considered to be weak. Right? But another matter that is discussed in ilm al-hadith and among the fuqaha, can a person use a weak hadith in any matter of Islam regarding mostly concerning whatever is concerning fadal al-amal and praiseworthy actions. You know the book Fadal al-amal, you know the book?
Yeah.
Hanafi book, or Tabliki book, Fadal al-amal. So that book is supposed to be encouraging you regarding certain type of deeds and action that are considered to be praiseworthy. Now, so you might find many hadith that are weak in the book and worse than weak. But as I generally discussed by the ulama, in what is referred to as fadal al-amal, praiseworthy actions, encouraging actions, can one use a weak hadith? Can one use a hadith that is weak? Right? So the discussion between some ulama. But I said hadith is mawdu outside this. Weak hadith, weak, shadidul da'f, no. So some ulama discuss that a hadith which is weak can be used in a praiseworthy action with certain conditions.
You hear it sometimes in the lectures.
So sometimes a lecture person may, you understand, and try to do something which is praiseworthy, encouraging, may mention a weak hadith. Now, but if that is done, is that allowed? So you have the discussion between ulama. They mentioned that in the matter of fadal amal, an encouraging act, you want to encourage a person regarding an act, my friends, an act of the said to be from the sunnah, but there's no clear dalil for it. And any dalil that is mentioned, something it may be weak. So for example, you might find some might pray after Maghrib 6 rakat. There's some hadith, but the hadith is weak. With me? Praying 6 rakat, ba'da Maghrib. The hadith is weak. But they say there's something which is a praiseworthy act. Hadith mentioned, but it is weak, but it's still a praiseworthy action. Right? So the thing is, can one use a weak hadith regarding a praiseworthy action? And this action doesn't contradict anything of Islam. If you do it, alhamdulillah. If you don't do it, you're not wasting, nothing to lose. So the thing is concerning this matter concerning, is it allowed to use weak hadith regarding praiseworthy action? Ibn Hajar rahimahullah, in his book mentioned that some of the ulama is of that view. And that's the case. But they put some guidelines. What are those guidelines or conditions? One, if the person is to use a weak hadith regarding a praiseworthy action, it shouldn't be something which is hukum shari. Should be something which is one. I'll mention that one last. One, the hadith shouldn't be shadidul daf. Shouldn't be severe weak. Should be something which is severe weak. Daif jiddan. Matruk. So it shouldn't be, and only a person of hadith will understand when hadith is severe daf. In some cases, it takes a person understanding of hadith to understand when hadith is not severely weak, and when it is something which is the weakness is not that severe. Also, they mention the person needs to clarify to the people that the hadith, the weakness of hadith, the degree of the weakness of a hadith. So if I mention the hadith, then I have to clarify that the hadith is weak. And just remain silent. Also the person should not, so the person doesn't take the hadith to be something which is, by not clarifying the hukum on the hadith, the person listener believes the hadith to be sahih or acceptable.
That happens a lot in Masjid.
You understand? And also that, and also the person should not reference back that action as being something the Prophet that he did. So that's not to attribute that action back to the Prophet because there's nothing authentic that he did that act. Yes, so you cannot attribute it back to Islam. And also you have other conditions that are mentioned. But let's mention those ones for now. And it should be something that fall under concerning a hukum, but those are the ones who's going to mention those ones. You have other conditions, but those are the ones that should be of the condition that I mentioned. So the person going to mention hadith, that he has tried to mention that the weakness of the hadith, and the other thing that we had mentioned, and some mentioned that if you were to apply all those conditions they have mentioned, it still will make the person not use a weak hadith in good action, encouraging acts. So you will apply all the conditions that those people put a condition, you will apply all of them, so we're going to mention some of them. There's other conditions. Now, if you would apply all the conditions that they mention, then it will mean that you cannot, in actual fact, apply weak hadith.
See, this is my question. Why do they still do it then? Because there must be other hadiths that can be used as a praiseworthy act without having to use a weak hadith.
Whatever the reason may be that they use it. Was that not one? There's for those people use it. There's condition. Most of the people may do it. They are not aware of the conditions. That's the big factor. Most of those who may do it are not aware of the conditions. But there's conditions that are laid down. Some of the ulama, like Ahmad rahimahullah, they said that he preferred to use a weak hadith than the aqwal of men, and also Abu Dawood. They prefer to use a weak hadith than the statement or the point of view of men. With me? So you have that mindset that are there. But also we say with those, you said that sometimes is mentioned, but also there's certain guidelines that are there. Is the guidelines followed properly? That's the thing. With me? And you might find in most cases the guidelines are not met as they should be. One, people sometimes are not aware regarding hadith is weak. So sometimes a person himself may not be aware regarding the weakness of the level of weakness of the hadith. And sometimes a weak hadith, in his view, you might find some of the ulama might all hadith to be was said Hasan. With me? You might find some ulama hold it to be Hasan and others, so you may find a difference regarding the level of authenticity of the hadith concerning. It may be, is it, some say it is weak and some say it is Hasan. With me? So you might find those discussion. You might find that discussion. So I'm able to be weak and you may hold to be Hasan. So that dispute between myself regarding what's the level of authenticity of the hadith. What's the proper ruling of the hadith. Both said the ones that are clear-cut weak, then those rules apply to them. But most may not be aware of those rulings. For example, most may not be aware of the condition that ulama have set regarding use of the weak hadith. So Ibn Hajar rahimahullah mentioned his hadith, the person is aware. But said the meaning sometimes can be correct based upon other clear hadith that are authentic that can somewhat clarify this matter. So that inshallah we go to the next hadith. What's the next hadith?
46?
Yeah,
narrated Abu Hurairah.
But another question before that is the emphasis in hadith studies placed upon the wording of the hadith or the isnad, the chain, which is given more precedent in deciding whether the hadith is weak or not.
It's not.
The isnad. So it's not about so it's not about only the emphasis is not placed on the wording, the text of the hadith. But the emphasis is placed first on the isnad. With me? Anyone? The next hadith?
Yeah, narrated Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, who Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, there is no wudu for one who does not mention Allah's name upon it. Reported by Ahmad, Abu Dawood and Ibn Majah with a weak chain of narrators. At-Tirmidhi reported something similar to the above from Sa'id bin Zayd and Abu Sa'id. Ahmad said there is nothing authenticated concerning this matter.
What you understand by mention la yuthbit fihi shay. That's what you understand by Sim Ahmed. What you understand by Sim Ahmed. There's nothing that is valid or authentic on this matter. What matter?
Bismillah before.
There you are. And the matter concerning the hadith of this nature. The hadith regarding this particular discussion. So regarding concerning a hadith, so the discussion now, we're going to be discussing the hukum at-tasmiyah fil wudu. Saying Bismillah at the start of the wudu. What's the ruling regarding this? Is it something to be done or something with the sunnah or not? That's the discussion. Saying Bismillah before starting the wudu. The hadith is mentioned by Abu Hurairah as mentioned, La wudu liman man lam yadhkur ismallah alayhi. That mentioned that La wudu, there's no wudu for the one who does not mention Allah's subhanahu wa ta'ala names upon meaning at the start of wudu. Ahmed narrated a hadith, Abu Dawood, Ibn Majah. They mention isnadin da'if. Isnadin da'if. That in the isnad it is weak. All the hadith that mention concerning starting wudu with Bismillah, they are under discussion. And in general concerning all mentioned, as mentioned by Ahmed, all of them are weak hadith. So you take all those hadith individually, by themselves. They mention narration by Abu Hurairah, there are some by Sa'id ibn Zayd, some by Abu Sa'id, some and by others. But all of those individual narration by those different companions, they are still all weak. They're still what? Weak. With me? So based upon this, some of the ulama mentioned that all the hadith regarding starting wudu Bismillah, they're weak, such as Ahmed and others. So they're somewhat all the concern, all those hadith are weak on this matter. Then you have some of the ulama have taken the view concerning those hadith that placed together, all together, that they have some strength. that they can somewhat strengthen each other. Of those of contemporary time, Sheikh Albani, of those who kind of somewhat of the view regarding that if placed together, that they give strength to others. Ibn Hajar rahimahullah, Ibn Hajar, the same author of this book, now he has other books. One of his books is called Al-Talkhis Al-Habir, where he went to one of the books of the Shafi'i, one famous books on Shafi'i fiqh, or Ibn Mulaqin went to one of the more famous books in Shafi'i fiqh and took out all the hadith that is used as a dalil, took out all the hadith that is used as a proof for their rulings, and then he critiqued all those hadith. His name is Ibn Mulaqin. That book in print is about 20, so one volume is about one volume is just you have two prints or more than one print, so one is about 20 something volume, one of his print. So he went through a book, a famous book in Shafi'i fiqh, and gathered all the hadith and then critiqued them. Then Ibn Hajar, he came, and that you find in every madhab, you find someone did this. For every madhab, someone did this. So for the Hanabila, you have a book for that purpose. Who did that? Of the ulama. One of the contemporary ulama did this. Who did this? Sheikh Albani. So he went to one of the famous books of the Hanabila and went through all the hadith and critiqued them. Then we said that other madhahib went through also Zay'ali, he did it for the Hanafi madhab. Right? So all the evidence that are used for those madhab, you have a specific book that will give you, that discuss the hadith that they use to prove their points or their views. Now, so Ibn Hajar and others did that also for their madhab, which is the Shafi'iyya. So in one of his book, he mentioned in his book, Al-Talkhis Al-Habir, he mentioned, he said, وَالظَّاهِرْ أَنَّ مَجْمُوعَ حَدِيث يُحْدِث مِنْهَا قُوَّةً. He mentioned that all these hadith regarding concerning Bismillah, if they are put together, they give strength. And that's Ibn Hajar. تدل على أن له أصل. Proving that it has a basis. Proving that all these hadith, that is matter as a basis. So he said that, so even mentioned the hadith is weak, but when they are all put together, they give some strength. According to some, Ibn Hajar amongst them, Sheikh Albani, Ibn Kathir, and others, that all concerning Al-Mundhiri, all concerning all these hadiths, that when they are put together, that they have some basis. But the discussion is still between the ulama of even contemporary time, that one of the ulama, or one of the people of hadith, of contemporary time, named Abu Ishaq al-Huwaini, that he wrote a book just on that topic. He wrote a book just on that topic. All the hadith that he could find regarding saying Bismillah, he gathered in one book and went through each hadith and came up with a final conclusion, is in our opinion that all of them combined together, that they have a basis, and all the hadith to be Hasan or Sahih. No? Or same thing. But for him, the hadith all together, but we said you have others who do not ascribe to that view. Others who do not ascribe to that view, and still all that hadith still has no basis, even though if you put them all together. Still, were to put all together, they still has no basis. So that's. We'll come through with this, the masail from this hadith. So I said that the hadith itself is under what? Great discussion. The hadith itself is under great discussion. So as for what can be taken from a hadith, as for the masail that relates to this particular hadith, that one say Bismillah in starting the wudu. When a person was they mentioned that a person said the person would say Bismillah, not to say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So the person would just restrict it for the person who may do it to say Bismillah, and not to say, even though some of the ulama, the person can say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, but from the hadith itself it's kind of somewhat more regarding saying Bismillah. Now, so that concerns that matter. The second matter is regarding concerning the actual hukum regarding saying Bismillah. The actual hukum is saying Bismillah at the start of one's wudu. Aqwal between the ulama. First view, from the apparent meaning of the hadith, that some of the ulama are concerned is wajib, wujub, tasmiyah, fil wudu. It's a must that a person must say Bismillah at the commence, at the start of his wudu. And that is to be done. So after the intention, before you wash your hand, you say Bismillah, then you start the act of wudu. So for them it is a must for it to be said, based upon the hadith that we just mentioned. And that's the qawl of the Zahiriyya. Qawl al-Zahiriyya. Also, narration Imam Ahmed. Qawl of Ishaq. And Ishaq, some of the view concern that no, if the person forgets, if out of forgetfulness, then there's no harm. If there's no harm concerning forgetfulness. If the person forgets, then his wudu is still intact, but if not, then if you remember, then it is to be said. So that concerns the first qawl, the first view. The second view is that it is something which is sunnah mustahab. It is sunnah to be done. It is a sunnah to be done. And that's the qawl of majority of the ulama. Amongst them, A'immatul Thalatha would be Imam Malik or Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Malik, Imam Shafi, and also a narration Imam Ahmed. Ibn Qudama of the Hanabila, they are of that view, and many others of contemporary time. Sheikh bin Baz, they have the view that it's something which is mustahab, and others, Ibn Kathir. So you find majority of the view that it is mustahab to be done. And Allahu A'lam, that view seems to be the more correct view. That view seems to be the more correct view regarding aqwal of the ulama. So the person says it is better than the person to miss it by something a person, so the person is better for it to be done. Better for it to be done, saying Bismillah at the start of al-wudu. So that inshallah that's concerning that particular matter regarding some of the acts of wudu. A few ahadith remain with a few masail. We'll discuss in the next lesson, and also give a outline regarding classing which is the difference concerning the wajib of salat and the sunnah act of salat. And a salat, of wudu. So we'll discuss concerning what is deemed as the wajibat, the sunnah acts of wudu, when we at the end of this or the next lesson inshallah ta'ala. وبالله التوفيق وهذا السبيل.